So I carried the anger like a weapon. I sharpened it every day, telling myself it would protect me. But really, it was poisoning me. Slowly, quietly, eating me alive from the inside out. When I finally left home, I thought I was free. I packed my bags, slammed the door, and told myself I'll never look back. And for a while, it felt like I had escaped. No more yelling, no more judgment, no more walking on eggshells in my own house. But here's the thing about running away from pain: you don't actually leave it behind, you carry it with you. It follows you like a shadow, creeping into every corner of your life. In college, whenever I saw other students with their dads, hugging them after a game, grabbing coffee together, laughing like best friends, my stomach twisted. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself, good for them, but that will never be me. But late at night, lying alone in my dorm room, I felt the ache. That deep, hollow ache of wanting something I could never have. Holidays were the worst. I would go home, sit at the dinner table, and it felt like I was sitting across from a stranger. My mom would try to keep the peace, asking me to pass the potatoes, forcing small talk to fill the silence. My dad, he barely looked at me. Sometimes he'd ask about school, about work, but his voice was flat, his eyes distant. We were family by blood, but emotionally, we were miles apart. At my graduation, he showed up. He shook my hand like I was some colleague, not his child. I scanned the crowd of parents cheering and crying, and I envied every single one of them. Because my dad was there physically, but not really there. The years rolled on. I started working, I moved out, I built my own life, but that wall between us never came down. Calls were rare, visits even rarer. When we did speak, it was short, polite, surface level, nothing real, nothing deep. There was this one Christmas. I'll never forget it. Everyone was gathered around the tree, tearing open presents, laughing, music playing in the background, and my dad sat in his chair, quiet, sipping his drink. I glanced at him, wondering if I should say something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. Because what do you say to someone you've been estranged from for years? How are you? Feels fake. I missed you. Feels like a lie. So instead, I said nothing. That silence became our language, a language built on years of unspoken words, on pain we never addressed, on walls neither of us dared to climb. And here's the part that hurt the most. I started to accept it. I started to believe this was just the way it was. Some families are close, some aren't. Some dads are loving, some aren't. I told myself I didn't care anymore. But deep down, I did. Because every time I blew out candles on my birthday, I secretly wished for one thing: that one day, somehow, my dad would look me in the eyes and just say, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're enough. But that day never came, so I built my life without him. I learned to carry the weight of his absence. I smiled in photos, laughed with friends, and pretended it didn't bother me. But the truth? It did. It always did. And that's how we lived for years. Two people, tied by blood, but separated by silence, father and child in name only. And I thought it would stay that way. Forever. Until one day, everything changed. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was at work, buried in emails, sipping on lukewarm coffee when my phone buzzed. It was my mom. Her voice was shaky. She said the words I never expected to hear. Your dad, he's in the hospital. For a moment, the world froze. My chest tightened, my hands trembled, and I couldn't breathe. My dad, the man who had always seemed unbreakable, untouchable, was lying in a hospital bed. I rushed there, heart pounding in my ears. And when I walked into that sterile room, the sight nearly broke me. He wasn't the strong, commanding figure I remembered. He wasn't the storm cloud towering over me. He was small, frail. Tubes ran across his body, machines beeped steadily, his skin pale against the white sheets. And for the first time in my life, I saw my father as human. Not a monster, not a tyrant, just a man. A man who was fragile, a man who could bleed, a man who could break. I stood there, frozen, watching his chest rise and fall with each struggling breath, and something inside me cracked. All the anger, all the resentment, all the years of silence, they were still there, but they were tangled with something else now. Fear. Fear that this might be it. Fear that he might slip away before I ever got the chance to say all the things I had buried inside me. Fear that our story would end like this, unfinished, unresolved. The nurses came and went. My mom sat quietly by his side, clutching his hand, whispering prayers. And me? I sat in the corner, torn apart. Do I stay angry? Do I cling to the walls I've built, the ones that have protected me all these years? Do you know what it feels like? To carry anger in your chest so heavy, it feels like it's choking the life out of you? Do you know what it's like to look at your own father, the man who raised you, and feel nothing but rage? That was me. For years, I swore I would never forgive him. For the nights I cried alone. For the words that cut deeper than knives. For the silence that grew louder than any scream. I promised myself I would never forgive. And yet, in a single moment, with a single sentence, my entire world shifted. And I realized that forgiveness isn't about weakness. It's about freedom. This is the story of the day I finally forgave my dad and how it changed my life forever. When I was a little kid, my dad was my hero. I thought he was invincible. He could fix anything with his rough, calloused hands. He could carry me on his shoulders for miles, making me feel like I was on top of the world. I remember the way his laughter filled our small living room, how his voice seemed so strong, so unshakable. But heroes, they fall. At first, the cracks were small. He started coming home later, smelling like cigarettes and something sharp on his breath. The bedtime stories stopped. The laughter got quieter. I still remember the first time he raised his voice at me. I was maybe 6 years old, holding a glass of milk that slipped through my hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. His eyes, they weren't my dad's eyes anymore. They were fire. His voice thundered, and I froze, tears burning my cheeks. That was the first time I realized maybe my dad wasn't the man I thought he was. The years went by, and the gap between us grew wider. He was strict. He was demanding. He wanted perfection, and I was just a kid who wanted to be loved. I remember bringing home a drawing from school, proud of the colors I had mixed together, and instead of hanging it on the fridge, he frowned. "Why didn't you stay inside the lines?" he asked. Inside the lines. That was his world, and the more I tried to fit, the more I felt like I was disappearing. As I grew older, the distance between me and my dad turned into a canyon. By the time I was a teenager, I didn't recognize the man sitting across from me at the dinner table. He was there, yes, but he wasn't really there. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud, heavy and tense, always ready to erupt. I remember one night, I came home with a report card. Straight A's. Every single class. I laid it down in front of him with a smile that stretched across my face. For once, I thought, maybe he'd say he was proud. Maybe he'd finally see me. He looked at the paper, silent for a moment. Then his brow furrowed. His finger tapped on the 1 B+ I had in physical education. "Why not an A?" he asked. That was it. No, good job. No, I'm proud of you. Just, why not better? It crushed me. Do you know what it feels like? To pour your entire heart into something, to push yourself until you're exhausted, and still, it's not enough? That was my life. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I was never enough for him. The fights got worse as I got older. He didn't like the music I listened to. He hated the way I dressed. He thought my friends were a bad influence. He wanted me to become someone I wasn't, and I just wanted a dad who loved me for me. I still hear his words sometimes. You'll never make it if you keep acting like this. Stop being so weak. Why can't you be more like someone else? Anyone else. Anyone but me. The house became a battlefield. Every dinner turned into a war. I learned to keep my head down, to stay quiet, to walk on eggshells just to avoid setting him off. But even silence wasn't enough. He'd find something, a dirty dish, a light left on. my grades, my clothes, my friends, anything. And every time I felt a piece of myself chip away. The hardest part wasn't even the yelling, it was the silence after. That cold, suffocating silence where he wouldn't even look at me. I could be sitting 2 feet away from him, but it felt like I didn't exist, like I was invisible. There's a special kind of pain in being ignored by the person who's supposed to love you the most. It's not loud, it's not violent, it's emptiness. By 16, I stopped trying. I stopped showing him my report cards. I stopped inviting him to my games. I stopped waiting for his approval, because it hurt too much when it didn't come. Instead, I built walls, thick, heavy walls around my heart. I told myself, I don't need him. I don't need his love. I don't need his approval. But deep down, I did. And that's the cruelest part, because no matter how much anger I felt, no matter how many times I swore I hated him, he was still my dad. And a part of me still wanted him to love me, but he didn't, or at least he didn't know how to show it. The next morning, he opened his eyes again. This time, they stayed open. I stood at the foot of the bed, unsure if I should move closer. My chest was tight, my throat dry, and my legs felt heavy, like they were cemented to the floor. He turned his head, slowly, painfully, and for the first time in years. Our eyes locked, and I swear, in that moment time stopped. It wasn't anger, it wasn't disappointment, it wasn't even cold indifference. It was something raw, something unguarded, something I had never seen in him before. "Hey," he whispered, his voice weak, almost breaking. Just one word. But it shattered me, because that single syllable carried decades of silence. I pulled a chair close, sat beside him, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. The machines filled the air with steady beeps. Nurses' footsteps echoed down the hall, but between us, just silence. Then, out of nowhere, it spilled out of me. All the words I had buried, all the pain I had carried. "Do you have any idea," I started, my voice shaking, "how much you hurt me? Do you know what it felt like, growing up never being enough for you? Always waiting for you to notice me? To just say you were proud of me? Do you even realize what you did to me?" His eyes closed. A tear slipped down his face. My father, the man who never cried, the man who was made of stone, was crying. "I know," he whispered. His voice cracked. "I know I failed you." And just like that, the walls I had built for years started to crumble. He took a shaky breath. I didn't know how to be a father. My dad, he wasn't kind. He never told me he loved me. He never told me he was proud. I thought being hard on you would make you strong. I thought it would prepare you for life, but all I did was push you away. I felt my chest cave in, because in that moment I saw him, not as the monster of my childhood, but as a broken man carrying his own wounds. A cycle passed down from one generation to the next. "You don't understand," I said, my voice breaking. "I just wanted you. Not the perfect version of you, not the strict father. Just you. I wanted you to see me, to love me, to be there." He reached for my hand, something he hadn't done in decades. His grip was weak, but it carried the weight of a lifetime. "I see you now," he whispered. "I love you. I always did. I just didn't know how to show it." And in that fragile, fleeting moment, I broke. Tears streamed down my face. Years of anger, bitterness, and silence poured out of me. I wanted to keep fighting. I wanted to hold on to the anger. It felt safer than forgiveness. But looking into his tired eyes, seeing the regret carved into every line of his face, I couldn't, because I realized something. My father wasn't my enemy. He was just a man, a flawed, imperfect man who made mistakes. A man who hurt me? Yes, but also a man who never stopped being my dad. And for the first time in my life, I let the words escape my lips. "I forgive you." His chest rose and fell, relief washing over his face, and with tears in his eyes, he whispered back, "Thank you." It was the first real conversation we had in decades, and though it didn't erase the past, it changed everything about the future. After that night in the hospital, things didn't magically become perfect. We didn't suddenly erase years of silence or pretend the pain never happened. But something changed. Something small, something fragile, but something real. The next time I visited him, the air felt lighter. We didn't talk about the past much, but when we did, he listened. Really listened. And for once, I wasn't speaking into a void. He started asking about my life, not just the surface level stuff, but the real things. My work, my dreams, my fears. It was awkward at first, like two strangers trying to learn each other's language, but slowly we began to understand. I'll never forget the first time he said it out loud. "I'm proud of you." 3 words, just 3 simple words, but they meant more to me than any gift, any achievement, any recognition I had ever received. Because those were the words I had been waiting to hear my entire life. It wasn't perfect. We still argued sometimes. Old wounds don't vanish overnight. But I stopped needing him to be perfect, and he stopped pretending to be invincible. For the first time, we were just 2 people, father and child, flawed, messy, but finally honest. As the months went on, our conversations grew deeper. He shared stories about his own father, stories he had never told before, stories of being hit, of being told he was worthless, of never once hearing the words, "I love you." And suddenly, I understood. The cycle of pain had been passed down, generation after generation. But it stopped with us.